we should introduce ourselves. Catherine, who are you and who do you work for? What do you do? Why are you here?
Yeah, what would you say you do here? Yeah. My name is Katherine Grayson Nance. I am a design and developer advocate for Progress. Mostly, I focus on our Kendo UI component library, specifically KendoReact, as well as our suite of design products. So that includes things like our design system kit, ThemeBuilder, which we'll get to peek at a little bit later, our UI templates and building blocks, and all the things that we do to help make what you make with our things beautiful, functional, accessible, all that good stuff. What about you? Who are you? Why are you here?
Hey, just an invite showed up on my calendar, so I'm here.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm Ryan Spencer. I work for a company called Bitovi. We are a digital consultancy, sort of based out of Chicago, but we're remote all over the country and a little bit around the world. Yeah, Bitovi is a Progress partner. So we do work with Kendo as well as we work with the Sitefinity team a little bit. And I know our DevOps team does some chef work, I believe. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we are a Progress partner, and that's why we're here. And I work on the front end team at Bitovi, mostly in React, and we're doing design systems fairly regularly. Um, I don't know how you work without them. What are we building today? What are we learning? We're going to make a little poll website. You've already done a poll in GoToWebinar, but we're going to make a little site that looks something like this. You will answer a whole bunch of questions. And when you are done, of course, I put a lot of thought into my answers. Then you submit, and then the results will pop up. And there we go. We get a bunch of charts. So we're gonna showcase a little bit of Kendo. You may or may not be aware, but Kendo has traditionally been a paid product, but recently, as of 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
quite a few of the components have been opened up into a free version. So on this page, when you're looking at the charts, the charts are going to be paid. This awesome data grid is free. And if we go back to the previous page, a bunch of free form elements. I think Catherine will go into that a little bit more detail later. Yeah, so that's what we are building today. But what's our agenda? We're here for, say 30, 45 more minutes. We are going to talk about ThemeBuilder, a really cool Progress tool. We will talk about how design systems improve your workflows, why even do it. Then we'll look at combining ThemeBuilder with Kendo UI. Then we'll look at bringing that output into making uniform design components within a React project, and then taking those components and importing them into another React application, like you would in the real world. And we'll probably talk a little bit about the pros and cons of our approach, and how we can not just take our output from ThemeBuilder and put it into a React app, but also another app for the Angular team, and not have to repeat ourselves and get consistency across multiple applications. At this point, before we jump into the ThemeBuilder, let's talk just a second about why you're here listening to design systems, right? We've already talked about what our issues are, but I think above that, there's also your customers' trust, right? If you have multiple applications that your teams are building, they all need to look and feel the same, because your customer wants to know when they go to application 1 that it looks the exact same as application 2. It's going to feel seamless. It's going to give those customers more trust in your nice, consistent brand feel. And then internally, that answers that poll question earlier, right? We want to be efficient. We want to have, reduce our time to market on our various products, because we're going to reuse our core app elements across multiple applications. the designer gets to design once, the developer gets to implement once, and the QA team gets to test once. It becomes faster. There's less kind of rework as we go back and forth trying to figure things out because something got missed. And this, this is where ThemeBuilder is going to really kick off that process. And Catherine, I think, can give us a little demonstration of ThemeBuilder. Progress has this and Kendo really great tools. So Catherine, if you want to go ahead and take over the screen and show us what this product is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get my screen going here. All right, so what we're looking at now is the Progress ThemeBuilder application. So ThemeBuilder is meant to help really easily style and customize your Telerik or Kendo UI components, right? So the idea being here that if you're working with a design team, or maybe you're just a developer that really doesn't like to write CSS, which the more I talk to people, the more I realize that is a very common gripe. I personally love to write CSS, which I've learned puts me in the minority. But if that's not your preference, ThemeBuilder is a WYSIWYG styling tool, which allows you to go through and take a look at all of our components here. This is a live preview, so you can open everything, click on things, explore hover states and active states, open drop downs, expand accordions, really see how everything's going to work. So you're not just looking at a static preview. You're really getting to explore the components in all of their various states, all of their various interactions, which is really nice because a lot of times designers don't necessarily have this, right? Component libraries tend to be geared towards the developer experience, which makes a lot of sense when we're thinking about code and implementing code, but the product development process actually starts a lot earlier, right? So, for example, let's say that I'm a designer and I've been asked to create this form website. What I've got is maybe our brand guidelines. We don't necessarily have an established design system yet, but I've got our logo, our colors, our fonts, all of that lives probably in a Figma file somewhere. I can import all of those things into ThemeBuilder here, and they'll get added. All of our variables and things from Figma we can pull in, and they get imported here and mapped to the variables of our components. I can import things like fonts or external styles. So if we've got a font that we've purchased that is related to our brand, that's part of our visual identity. We don't have to sacrifice that here. We can add it, we can add icons, really get as truly custom as we want. And if we want to really go in and deep dive, we can toggle over into this advanced edit panel here, which will give us a close look at each of these components. Let me zoom in a little bit here so we can really see it. So we can see, again, all of these kind of interaction states broken out. And along the right-hand side here, we have drop downs and inputs that will let us change each aspect of these. So without having to write any code at all, I can say, actually, I think I'd rather that be a light background, or that one should be orange, or I can change any number of aspects about the padding, right? It's got linked. These are variables that have been imported. So, right, if I've defined all of this in Figma as part of our earlier brand guidelines, that can all be added here, or I can write each one manually and watch it change in real time. If I don't like it, it's an undo button away from being back to the way it was. Or if I do, and sometimes I get this way where I'm like, I just know how to write this in CSS, and it would be just a little bit faster if I could just type it really fast right here. I can pop open the styles editor here, throw in a quick line there, and see it update again immediately in real time. And when I head back try to see if I can find that one. I should have made a change to a button that would be everywhere. Let's do it with the main button so we can see it. We'll say 10 px of padding here, and we'll change the color to that orange. And when we head back, we can see that automatically has been versioned out across all of our components. So not just those buttons there, but any other components that have a button in them, right? It's this atomic design approach that we lean on, where all of our components get used to build our other components, everything scales beautifully. So we only have to make that change once. It is incredibly easy and incredibly fast. And when I've got everything looking just the way I want, I can use the share option to add folks. So maybe that's a product manager, or maybe that's a developer that I'm working with. Like you can see here, I've added Ryan. You can get in, take a look, and this space in ThemeBuilder becomes our single source of truth, where we are looking and saying, this looks right, this doesn't look right. I opened the drop down and it doesn't behave the way I thought. Let's go ahead and change, the color on this. Let's tweak the padding on that. Let's make sure that this font is aligned with what we're using here. This lets us preview everything and make sure that it all looks good before we implement. So we reduce that back and forth. We're not doing the, hey, I told you that button was supposed to be orange, and it gets kicked back and we change it and it gets pushed back again. Nope. We get aligned here, get everything looking just how we want. And then either I or Ryan have to do is click that export button. And what that's going to do is put together all of these styles into one CSS or Sass file, which can then be dropped into the application, which I believe Ryan is about to show you next.
I have a few questions first.
Okay.
So one, right? You as the designer would often be the one who'd kind of set this up and get this rolling, and you want me to have access. If as a developer, if I want to be able to hit that export all button, which permission do you have to give me when you share it?
Ooh. So you can do that with anything, I believe, above view. View lets you just peek. But after that, well, actually, no. The permission levels are broken down here, and I can be wrong in real time. So I believe you can download the CSS for anything, but you'll only be able to get in and change things with an edit or an admin.
Got it. And if you gave your developer edit permission, and they did something terrible, how do you yell at them most effectively?
Well, I think the actual yelling will have to be done over whatever workplace communication you use. That could be Teams, that could be Slack. But the good news is it won't have to be very long because you can roll things back, right? You've got your forward and backwards controls here, as well as full version control and version history. So in this case, we haven't changed anything that we've saved different versions of, but we can create up to 100 different versions here. So as we're changing, we can save new versions. We can, right? So here's my orange button version that I'll save here, right? And if there's anything that gets messed up or thrown off, we can just roll it back. It makes it super easy. It's nice. The version control can be a little hit or miss with design tools, but this one I think is really nice and does a good job of bridging how developers think about version control and how designers do as well. So, right, we can see my new version has been added here, my orange button version.
Excellent. And yeah, as a developer, I love this tool because we're all under time pressure, right? And so design will get it 95% right, but then there's still like some state that they missed, right? But here they're designing not in a flat static thing. They're actually designing with real components. So you as a designer get to click on the drop down and see it open and be able to see all of those pieces rather than trying to just remember how it works in Figma. So I think it can definitely clean up that design handoff and make sure that everything, or at least as close as possible, gets covered.
Yep.
Yeah, before we jump out of ThemeBuilder, do we have any questions we want to answer? I don't see
Let's
any
see.
in the chat or in the question thing. Just thought I would check. Ooh,
Yeah, but there is one. Can we import a Figma file here and create a UI using ThemeBuilder, which creates CSS or HTML? So what we can do is add our variables from Figma. So we can go ahead and import all of those, and those will become our variables over here. They get mapped. This is especially handy if you are looking to work in Figma first. Then we have Figma UI kits. So those will be exact one-to-one copies or versions of all of our components created for use in Figma. That makes it especially easy to kind of work like this because then the designers can be working with the exact components from the very beginning. And when you map things over, it's all going to automatically kind of line up with the variables that are in the theme builder here. If that's not the case, you can still, of course, import from Figma files that didn't start from a Figma UI kit. You'll just have to kind of do a little manual remapping of those variables. So some other questions, how different is ThemeBuilder from Figma? So Figma is a full-featured design software, right? So that is for creating layouts, doing full prototypes, thinking about like the full page layout. ThemeBuilder is a little bit more focused. It is just about the Kendo UI and Telleric components. So you won't be laying out elements here. You won't be creating interactive prototypes. This is just about styling this set of components and some of the basic HTML elements as well.
ThemeBuilder, you just will hit a button and it'll give me a style sheet, and I'm done. We'll see that in a second. Um, and there's a question that's like, can I just export and then just use Kendo directly in my application? And yeah, you absolutely can. Um, you don't have to build separate components and in a design library to get that styling. Um, I still like to do that design library because sometimes we have specific behaviors we want to add on to the Kendo components. And if we make them all individual, we have to go apply it in a bunch of places. Whereas if we want our button to always send a Google Analytics message or something like that, we can just add it to the one design system
Right.
button and we're done. What are we building, right? So ThemeBuilder has designed our Kendo components. What does that sort of look like? So at the top level, ThemeBuilder is creating our styles, and Kendo is going to power our actual components. Kendo, of course, has React versions and Angular versions and different versions. And what's nice about this is that style sheet that comes out of ThemeBuilder applies to all of them. Just one export goes everywhere, and you're done. I've built this little application that I showed you. It's a React application. It's using TanStack to power the front end. It's deployed on Cloudflare. Hano is a little backend server recording what you put in, so that we can have data to power those graphs. And then we're using a tool called NX to bring it all together in a mono-repo. If you want to see what this whole thing looks like, at the bottom there's a footer on that, and there is a link to the GitHub repo. You can take a look. I'll show it in a minute. But yeah, NX is going to be a tooling that allows us to have sort of multiple applications and make it easy for them to talk to each other, keep in sync. It does a little caching in the build process. And I wrote everything in JavaScript. But NX works with other things as well. It does work with .NET. So if you needed a CMS, you could put a Progress Sitefinity CMS into this project. You can go with some various other languages. And I saw a couple Arizona and California people. They are based in Phoenix. And Progress, I think we've got up in the Northeast and over in Bulgaria as well, I think. So we've got a
We're
lot.
all over. Yeah, we're international. So
And so, yeah, this whole thing is deployed to Cloudflare. It's a pretty lightweight app. Let's take a look. Um, so hopefully this makes sense, this flow of how everything comes out. So ThemeBuilder, we're going to get that style sheet and then feed it out to our reusable components. And then those reusable components can all apply to multiple applications. So we should only have one theme builder for everything. And then one component library for each framework. And then that can feed all of the apps in our project. So again, here we go. That's the thing that we were looking to build. And here it is. So I think probably the next step is to jump into some codes. This is one repository that is that can be version controlled. And then from the top level here, I can run commands using NX that will simultaneously, run and build all of the pieces, that need to run in order to make this work. So generally the way you would set this up is if you're going to create an app that users are going to see, you put it under apps. And if you were going to make something like a component library, you'd put it under libs. This might also contain various logic that you want to share across different applications. You can put the majority of your code in libraries. So from here we have just different things. We've got a button, right? Not too complex. I am just basically repeating what the Kendo button is. This is a nice tool or a nice type helper that we get from React. If you just kind of pass it, type of Kendo button, button props is now correct. And then if you wanted to add anything, this is TypeScript. Hopefully some of you are familiar with TypeScript. But if we wanted to add some extra things, we can do so here. If you wanted to overwrite the click handler, you could do that. For those of you who are interested, you do have to omit the on-click if you want to do such a thing. But yeah, you've got some capabilities, right? This format lets you change behaviors in one place rather than having to do it every single place you use a button. So I like going in this route. Then I have I've got Storybook set up. Storybook is a pretty great tool for allowing you to build out your components. And in a way, this is like my version of ThemeBuilder. I can see from a developer perspective that I am getting the output that I want. I'm able to test these in isolation and verify that they're working correct. And in order to do that, for each component, we just create a story file, and the code looks like this. We won't get sort of too deep into it because you can check the code over in GitHub. But we will sort of create this basic, here's our button, and we are going to create a story. And these are the props. I mean, Storybook calls them args, but in React, we would call these props. These are the props that we want to pass in, and we can change those if we want, and then jump over and look at our button, and there we go. We've updated right away.
it's really nice I kind of think of it as like ThemeBuilder lets you change the look and feel, but then when you're in Storybook, really what you're customizing is the behavior, right? So Kendo has all these ways you can customize a component in terms of functionality or interaction options or the way that, you want calendar options to be visible. And if you've decided that you only want one specific interaction pattern or one, type of calendar view or whatever for your application, that's kind of what you can lock down here in your Storybook, right? It's kind of, or would you use it for something else?
No, absolutely, absolutely, definitely. And not only can I do that sort of manually, but there's even I don't remember if I actually wrote one of these. There's even, yeah, here we go. We can even write automated tests in here,
Mm,
where this allows my tests to run here in the browser too. So
it's really nice.
we get that validation from real people, and we can get the automated validation as well. So yeah, so Storybook's a nice add-on. I like this tool a lot. Um, yeah, so um, so this is our library. The team that is working on your component library, because we're using Storybook, that team can work independently. They don't have to have the whole application running. They can just run Storybook, build out all the pieces. And um, if you look at this button, you may have noticed it is styled, but I didn't really have to do anything. And that is because we have our base styles coming from this. This is the output from ThemeBuilder, and it's just being kind of imported into the root of the project and getting applied everywhere. So in this component library, there's not going to be any styling. There's in most of the project, there really shouldn't be much styling other than if you need to add some padding between elements, right? The bigger layout pieces. You in a design library like this, instead of just having a button, you might have a card that's not part of Kendo, right? And it puts together some buttons, and we can do that and apply some styling. But these Kendo pieces, they're done. They're ready to go.
We did have somebody in the questions ask what you can use Storybook with, if it was particular to React or Angular. My recollection is that it's JavaScript focused, and so you have to be React Angular Vue Svelte maybe. I'd have to
Yes.
look that one up, but I didn't know if you knew.
Yeah, it is definitely anything JavaScript. I don't know if they have any versions um, that go outside of JavaScript. Like, I don't know if you can do PHP
Hmm.
components. I have no idea. But I know it works with everything JavaScript. And this page I'm on right now, you can deploy this if you want so that everyone can see it, and you can treat this as documentation. Um, like, this is our final design library because you might not want to give everybody access to ThemeBuilder. Yeah.
Yep. And the ability to add documentation in Storybook is also nice, right? So if you say, well, we only want to use primary buttons in this situation and secondary buttons in this situation, you can add actual, like, written documentation to this as well, if I recall.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
There are definitely projects where I've added markdown files into this, where, or
yep.
I should say, it's MDX, which is like markdown with JSX, and so you can type what you want to say and then throw the component right into the page, um,
Yeah.
explaining, both with words and visually what you want. So yeah, Storybook's definitely an important tool for a design library, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So now we've created this. We've got this library. It's got our button in it, our chart in it, and so we have this demo application, and this has a React app in it, and it has a back-end API, you're probably not that interested in that little server, but it's there if you want to look. So here's our React app. It is pretty normal looking. If you are looking at this code and you look at the package.json and you think like, where are all the dependencies? This is something that NX does, and you can install the dependencies individually within each app and each library, or you can install them way up at the top and then they get shared out to everything. And then this kind of ensures that somebody can kind of maintain the React version and apply it everywhere and keep you all in sync. But just kind of mentioning that if anybody's looking at the code and wondering where all those dependencies are, they're just at the top level. NX is caching them and making them more efficient. So then once we get into our application, this is a pretty standard React application. Index is our main page, and you can see that I have imported the button and the drop down from @components React. NX has allowed us way up at the top here to define some paths. So we can do this, allows us to share that library across all our various applications without having to do really long relative paths that have lots of periods in them. So then, I think it would be, a valid question to say, what if I wanted to use Kendo directly? I think we can. I don't think I've changed these enough. You know what? Maybe I have. Let me see. I think the button might work. Progress, KendoReact buttons. There we go. So I think we still need the drop down. But yeah, so because I didn't change the interface of the button, I just reused what Kendo gave me. I could make this switch, and I believe I have it here. There we go. And so the styling, as you can see, the styling is still applying because I did import that style sheet. And the reason, even though you don't see it in the app, the reason that's working is because I'm still pulling in the drop down from the component library. And so the drop down comes with that whole style sheet. This is maybe a negative, you could argue, right? Because ThemeBuilder is not exporting the individual components. It's exporting the whole style sheet. So you get all of it.
Although I will note, you can choose which components you want to export the styling from ThemeBuilder. It's not an all or nothing. So if you're just using a handful of the components on the ThemeBuilder side and you just want to export styles for buttons, drop downs, and I don't know, charts, you can do that and skip the styles for the calendar or any of the other Kendo components you're not using. I know that's not exactly what you were talking about, but it felt like a good call out that you don't have to the full dump, because that can be a hefty style sheet if you're talking about 120 plus components versus a handful.
Yes. And that then gets into, like, if you're not going to if you're going to try to split that up for the component library and like pull just the button for the button and then just the chart styles for the charts, that's not really going to be a benefit to you, because you're going to end up having to repeat a bunch of these variables. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend somebody do that. The size of this whole style sheet isn't really going to be that big. It's not going to be that weighty. And if and you probably need it anyways. So I would kind of.
The easiest approach is to just pull everything from the Kendo library, use the styles that you said in ThemeBuilder, and not reinvent the wheel, I'd
Yeah.
say.
And as long as we're kind of having this conversation, I do want to point out your exports are both CSS and SCSS or SAS. So if you did want to compile this style sheet along with a bunch of your styles, you could do so. That is absolutely possible. Also, the Kendo styles have been fairly well sort of namespaced with the Kendo words, so you won't have you don't have to worry too much about conflicts. Like if you do write some of your own styling, it's not gonna clash with something that you wrote. In this project, you'll notice if you look through some of the code that I did use Tailwind here. I am generally not a huge fan of Tailwind because they have weird naming conventions that I don't like. But I do think it's a very powerful tool for layout specific styling. So you'll see me use it a lot for like, I want this to be a flex box and center, the items on the screen. I think this is a great use for it. And since Catherine already put together all of my colors and the various details for the components in ThemeBuilder, that's all I really have left to do is just set gaps between items and set paddings and various layout bits. So in this case, my Tailwind code doesn't get very long. Yes. All right. So we've built our we've taken a look at our component library. We have taken a look at the final app that is able to import these pieces. And now, well, we've got this demo. I'm actually going to view the results. I'm interested in seeing, here we go. Hey, we got some votes for things. I think this chart is really neat. Chart is a premium component. This data grid is a free component. This data grid is pretty great. I'm basically using it as a table here without a lot of flexibility, but it has a whole lot more utility than what I'm using it for here. And all of these charts are loading with basically the same code. It's just telling it I want it to be a type bar or type pi, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing that without, like, we didn't have to write any CSS, we didn't have to like write any components themselves. We just kind of pulled in from a bunch of various sources, and really all you had to do was the layout, the arrangement on the page, right?
yeah. I'm just if we look into our I have a page component that just kind of organizes some things, but
Hmm.
this file's only 36 lines long, and then my individual results page is 76 lines long, right? And this
Yeah.
is just looping over, and we have a chart, we have a grid, and we feed them the data, and that's
Yeah.
it. I
It's pretty
don't
smooth.
recommend doing this code, which is just kind of making sure each chart is a different is a different kind of chart. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and now you've got this library of reusable components that you've loaded into Storybook, you've customized to be exactly how you need it for your application. I dragged and dropped basically CSS files, and you've got this library that you can reuse over and over. That's
And over.
that's
Yep.
pretty nifty. Yeah, somebody in the chat asked if there are any tools you use to help produce the layout. I know you mentioned Tailwind, which is it's a contentious option.
Yes.
I
Technically,
also
Tailwind is brilliant because it can really refine how much code, how much CSS ends up getting sent to the browser. It's really neat. But then they do like weird things, like visible means something different than what you think it would mean. Like all kinds, like they didn't just follow the CSS convention. They should have just taken CSS and put dashes in there.
But yeah, I'll also throw out there that in our design system kit, we also have some great templates for different page layouts and building blocks of commonly combined components. So if you are looking for something to help speed up the layout even more, you can grab some of those that our team and our designers have put together and even get this thing moving just a little bit faster.
Yeah. Sometimes designers will use Figma and kind of put that page layout together, and the layout code will be in Figma. And
Yeah.
I think the layout CSS, I should say, if you do a button, you can pull that CSS out and apply it to the button, and it works pretty well. But like the bigger layout things, it I don't like what Figma gives me, and it's usually not responsive. Um, so the tool I use is just I've been doing CSS for too long, and I just do it. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really not a good uh, like if you go to the gym and you want to find out how to get in shape, don't ask the guy who's huge and has been lifting for 15 years because like his advice is not going to be good for you, you know. Um, so I'm just comfortable with it, and I have bad advice there.
And I think that's just about all we've got for you today. In the meantime, I'm Catherine, and this is Ryan from Bitovi, and we'll see you guys again later.
Thank you. Bye bye.